A meeting is now being recorded.
We're good to go. All right, I'd like to call this regular meeting of July 7, 2021 to order. Please join me by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Sarah, go ahead with the Zoom stuff, please.
Thank you. This meeting is being live streamed via our portal at santec-anna.com/public/portal and to YouTube at youtube.com/cityofsantaanavideos/live. If you would like to provide a public comment, you may do so in the following ways. Join the meeting via Zoom, enter meeting ID 9486-736-7535. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, select the hand icon to let us know that you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the name entered. You may also call 669-900-9128, enter meeting ID 9486-736-7535. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, press *9 to let us know that you'd like to speak. You will be called upon by the last 3 digits of your phone number. After you are called upon, you must press *6 to unmute yourself. For those here in person, if you'd like to speak and you are not the applicant, please fill out a request to speak. Turn that in to me, and you will have 3 minutes, and I will alert you when your time is up. Back to you.
Thank you. So beginning with public comments on non-agenda items, is there anyone who wishes to speak? Sarah, do we have anyone?
If you'd like to speak on a non-agenda item, please press *9 or raise the hand icon now if you're participating via Zoom. And if we have any members of the public that are here in person that would like to make a comment on a non-agenda item, please let us know now. We do not have any speakers.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the business calendar for public hearings. I'll now review the process for the public hearing so that everyone knows what to expect. Staff will provide a presentation and answer questions. Firstly, the public hearing will be open, followed by an opportunity for the applicant to speak, limited to 15 minutes. Thirdly, members of the public will be given the opportunity to comment. Those comments are limited to 3 minutes. The applicant will then be given the opportunity to respond to comments made by the public, limited to 5 minutes. Following that, the public hearing will be closed, and further discussion may take place with formal action taken to approve, conditionally approve, deny, or continue the review of the subject application. Please consider the following suggestions when organizing your comments. Firstly, please state your name and address. This is voluntary. Secondly, state whether you support, oppose, or are neutral to the proposal. And lastly, your statement should include all pertinent facts within your knowledge. Please avoid gossip, emotion, and repetition. A clear and concise and non-repetitive argument is most effective. With this is now the time and place for public hearing on item number 1. This is minor exception number 2020-1 for the property located at 3220 South Bristol Street. Please note that the decision on this matter is final unless appealed within 10 calendar days. Staff will now provide a brief presentation.
Thank you, Ali. Good morning, everyone. The following minor exception application submitted by the Pacific Telephone and Telegraph Company is requesting approval for the construction of a 7-foot-high front yard fence and gates at 3220 South Bristol Street. The project is located near the intersection of Alton Avenue and Bristol Street. The zoning designation is Planned Shopping Center, which is C4, and Light Industrial, M1. And the property is developed with a central communications office for Pacific Telephone and Telegraph Company and a parking lot on a 126,579 square foot lot. This minor exception application is being requested because the fencing is exceeding the allowable front yard fence height of 4 feet for the zone. The applicant, just to give a couple more details regarding the project, the applicant is proposing to install approximately 300 feet of 7-foot-high wrought iron fencing, 1 vehicular sliding gate, and 2 pedestrian egress gates within the front yard along the east property line. In addition, the applicant will be adding wrought iron on top of the existing block wall at the southeast end of the property for a total of 7 feet, removing and replacing existing concrete steps with a new planter and infilling an obsolete building door opening with brick. Site improvements are also proposed to include revitalizing the existing front yard planters with landscaping and repainting the front of the building. Staff would also like to note that this application is being brought forward because of there have been multiple instances of code enforcement cases involving transient encampments, littering, and graffiti. To address the ongoing property and building concerns, the applicant has applied for the subject minor exception to allow for the construction of the fencing and gates. Ultimately, staff recommends approval for this application, and the findings are outlined in the staff report. And this concludes my presentation. I would also like to note that the applicant is here to answer any questions, and I'm also available for any questions as well.
All right, thank you. Have we received any written communication?
No,
Yes.
Oh.
For this item at 3220 South Bristol, 4 letters were received. Those have been distributed to the zoning administrator and published to our website.
All right, thank you. All right, the public hearing is now open. Would the applicant like to speak on the matter?
Hi, Karen Moore, and I'm with Blue Cross Limited, we're representing AT&T. I'm just here to just for this project, AT&T is in agreement with the conditions. I'm ready to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll now take phone comments from the public. Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public that would like to comment?
If you'd like to speak on this item, please select the hand icon. If you're participating via Zoom. If you're calling in, please press *9 now. We'll wait a few seconds. We do not have any callers.
All right, thank you. In case there were any comments from the public, I would have asked the applicant if you had any final remarks, but given none, do you have anything else that you'd like to share?
Nothing with any further.
All right, thank you. All right, public hearing is now closed. So thank you, staff, for your presentation. Just had a few questions and comments. So I know that there's been some back and forth with the site and its code enforcement history, so just kind of wanted to go over a few items relating to that. I see that there is a condition proposed to repaint the portions of the building and replace a storefront window. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to just ensure that when repainting the building that we also are mindful of and include the block walls that are also facing the street, if those are of a material that needs to be painted, that those be painted as well and not forgotten. So was there any discussion with the applicant about those being included as part of the repainting?
No.
Okay, thank you. The existing block walls along the Bristol Street and the portions of Gary and Alton that are there, if any, in looking at the photos, it's not terribly clear, but there looks to be some that are painted there. So, before we get to that, I just want to be mindful of that, maybe as a modified condition of approval to include those as needed. And also ensure that any and all paint applications are using an anti-graffiti coating as well. So that's the first, giving the history of code enforcement issues with this site, an anti-graffiti coating would be beneficial just to minimize long-term need to constantly go out and repaint and make it easier to wash down. So if the applicant is in agreement with that, I'd like to modify the condition of approval to include that provision as well. So
I believe the commission agreement does allow those windows to be painted and not replaced out.
thank you. Okay, so it's clarified it was painted or replaced, so thank you. Okay. Secondly, just want to ensure that when we install this fence, that it's in full accordance with the citywide design guidelines for such fence installations. We do have requirements for regularly spaced pilasters where available, and even if not pilasters of a solid material, regularly spaced, sort of like thicker elements to sort of create a rhythm and routine to the fencing, so it's not a single span of wrought iron. I know that physically it's impossible almost to install a single span of wrought iron, so you do need these sort of supports at a regular interval, but nonetheless, I do want to ensure that that is thought of as well. So is that reflected in any of the project description or conditions of approval?
Not currently.
Okay. So I'd like to just ensure that the final resolution include a modification to ensure that that wrought iron fence is designed in accordance. We do have recent examples. There's one that was recently completed at 1232 South Bristol Street, up north from your project site. So if the applicant's in agreement with that, that could serve as a sort of exemplar for that.
Of course, I think everything would be discussed with these,
Okay, thank you. All right, and then lastly, I did notice in the design and on the site plan that due to some egress and code issues that there are proposed to be a couple, it looks like two alcoves where due to landing areas that are required for egress, that the fence would have to jog in several feet to accommodate that and then jog back out. And as we all are aware of the code enforcement history on this site, as well as the sort of issues we have with transient populations and individuals without permanent housing, that these alcoves can become areas of refuge and litter and debris accumulation. So I just want to be cognizant of that, that issue that's ongoing for properties with this sort of design. And ask staff, has there ever been, prior to this hearing for this project, was there any discussion about an alternative design that would have eliminated the need for those alcoves?
There were discussions in regards to pushing the fence egress gates even with the property line and the proposed fence. However, those gates would then push out into the public right-of-way, which could be a safety and danger issue to pedestrians or bicyclists on the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you. I see with representation from the Public Works Agency here, Tig, if the applicant could revise that design to not create those alcoves, would there be an opportunity for the applicant to submit an application for an encroachment permit to be reviewed by the Public Works Agency, given the 10-foot wide sidewalk here? Would there be an opportunity to submit and have that evaluated by the Public Works Agency as a way of potentially eliminating those alcoves?
Yes, thanks. Kate Higgins for Public Works. We would review an application. We do not typically allow exceptions if it's something that we would review and evaluate. We would also ask for alternative designs where the doorways don't push out in the right way and still meet the illumination of the alcohol.
Okay, thank you. And that application would be submitted directly to the Public Works Agency?
Yes.
I did have a comment in there, we're happy to comply. I think there was discussions with staff, as I understand, on that issue, and it was not only because the gate between Evans and South Broadway and the sidewalk, but also it didn't comply with the ADA requirements for the ramp. So there were several issues. You know, it's a tricky situation about what agency you're gonna, comply with them, so, but we're happy to work with the public works on that.
Thank you. All right. Lastly, I had a chance to review the resolution for the project and reviewed the recital. And sorry, I'm trying to go back to the resolution. So, given the rich history of compliance issues with this site of recent, I believe the resolution's recitals could be enhanced to include reference to the ongoing concerns about safety at this site for the individuals who work there and for the individuals who are passing by, residing nearby, and lastly, for the individuals who are of a transient population, camping there and all that be sort of the genesis for this application coming forward to sort of document that as part of the recitals and findings for the resolution. In addition, I think it is important in these recitals to also state that such facilities contain often infrastructure that's critical for emergency responders, for telephone services, and infrastructure that's very costly and sensitive, hence the style of construction that often exists at these sites, and that securing the site with any means feasible, such as the fencing, is critical to the health, safety, and welfare of Santa Ana residents and visitors and the general public. And as a sort of separate recital in that regard, that further enhances staff's position on recommending approval of the project. And that could be in the final resolution as well as a means of documenting exactly why this came forward in the first place and why the fence is a critical sort of component of securitizing the site. So given that the applicant has indicated that she's amenable to these conditions of approval, the modifications, and amenable to working with staff, public works, building, and planning to explore the elimination of the alcoves through encroachment permits where feasible, and given the information presented in the staff report and the findings of fact, I'm comfortable going ahead and conditionally approving the project as per the modified and added conditions today. And staff can go back and go ahead and revise the resolution to include these components and review with City Attorney's Office for final form before I sign off. And so that's it. I'd go ahead and adopt a resolution as modified, approving minor exception number 2021-01 for the property located at 3220 South Bristol Street. And again, please note that this action is final unless appealed within 10 calendar days, and an appeal application can be submitted to the Planning Division or the City Clerk's Office, subject to any fees adopted by City Council. So with that, we can go ahead and move on to item number 2. So this is the time and place for public hearing on item number 2, minor exception number 2021-03 for the property located at 4405 West Edinger Avenue. Please note that decision on this matter is final unless appealed within 10 calendar days, and staff will now provide a brief presentation.
Good morning. The application before you today is minor exception 2021-03 for 4405 West Edinger Avenue. The applicant is Archangel Michael Coptic Orthodox Church, is requesting a minor exception from the municipal code requirements in order to construct a 7-foot-high front yard fence. The applicant is proposing to install a decorative 7-foot-high wrought iron fence within the front yard. The fence will be constructed in the front of the church building and will span approximately 115 feet in length. The wrought iron fence is designed to include arches with a circle and cross at the center of every 10-foot segment and will be painted beige to match the existing fencing on the site. Approximately 8 to 25 feet of front yard landscaping will remain in front of the fence, including palms, a row of shrubs, and grass turf along Edinger Avenue. The site contains an existing church building which was built in the early 1990s, and recently there have been incidents of burglary and vandalism to the site. The Santa Ana Police Department, Orange County Sheriff's Department, and the Department of Orange County Intelligence Assessment Center and United States Department of Homeland Security have reviewed the site, all of which recommended the installation of a 7-foot-high fence in the front yard in order to secure the church property. Staff has analyzed the project, and with that, staff is recommending approval of minor exception 2021-03 as conditioned, and is available to answer any questions along with the applicant.
Thank you. So before going on to any written communications and opening the public hearing, I just did have one question for staff to make sure I'm reading the site plan correctly. So if I understand the site, the primary entrance and steps to the building face west towards the drive aisle and parking area. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you. All right, Madam Secretary, have you received any written communications?
We have received 3 letters. Those have been distributed to the zoning administrator and posted to our website.
Thank you. So with that information, I'd also now like to open the public hearing. Would the applicant like to speak on this matter?
Thank you. My name is Martin Gerges. I'm representing the Archdeacon Michael Orthodox Church, and we are proposing to install a 7-feet fence at the recommendation of Homeland Security and the FBI, and also the Orange County Sheriff Department, and also Santa Ana Police Department. And this fence will provide a life safety for our congregation, and also will provide protection to the church proper. And your approval will be appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, and then now we can take any phone comments. Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public that would like to comment by telephone?
If you are calling in and would like to comment, please select the hand icon now, or *9 if you dialed in. We'll wait a few seconds. We do not have any callers.
Thank you. Normally, if there had been callers from the public, we would provide an opportunity, or actually any other comments from the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make any comments? All right, thank you. Normally, I would provide you an applicant, as applicant, an opportunity to make any final remarks. Would you have anything else that you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you. So with that, the public hearing is now closed. Thank you. I do have just a few overall questions about the proposal. So firstly, similar to the last item, has there been any coordination with the applicant on designing the fence to be compliant with citywide design guidelines for such sites?
The fence does have the decorative arches for every 10-foot segment, and then would have thicker sections of wrought iron in between the picket, one-inch pickets.
Okay, thank you. And that fully reflected on the plans that we have before us this morning?
Yes, in detail number 1 on sheet A2 is the fence detail. So it depicts a 1-foot by 1-foot picket, or I'm sorry, 1-inch by 1-inch picket, and a 3-inch by 3-inch steel post.
Thank you. And then secondly, is there any landscape area? It appears that based on the conditions, there may be the possibility that landscaping may be disturbed by the installation of the fence. So has the city and the applicant, have they coordinated on, a plan to replace that as necessary?
Yes, condition number 6, states that should existing shrubs be removed due to the installation of the proposed fence, that replacement shrubs, possibly bougainvillea or succulents that would deter, individuals from accessing the fence and the property even further, shall be planted, per the municipal code landscaping requirements.
Thank you. All right, lastly, similarly to my comments on the prior item, I do believe it's important to enhance the recitals and findings for this resolution to document, several important aspects of this site that make it unique in order to support staff's recommendation of approval for the fence. So firstly, I'd like the final resolution to include a recital documenting some of the information that was provided in the staff report and presentation about the unfortunate recent attacks on the property, indicating that its vulnerability has necessitated the need for the fence application to be submitted to the city. And then secondly, that due to the building's orientation and site design, that because the front entrance faces west toward a drive aisle and a parking lot, that the street-facing side is in effect architecturally acting as a side yard for the property. And that a fence sort of containing and delineating that side yard is compatible with the site planning and architecture of the building and thus necessary to create that sort of protected side yard. It's commonplace that church facilities will contain special events, children that might be playing in these areas, and especially when a building is so close to the street that in the case of the site planning and the vulnerability that's created by this site plan for the building and the recent attacks that we've heard of recently, that the fence is complementary toward that goal of securitizing the site, given the way that it was laid out originally and constructed. So those two recitals, I think, would help, again, document the sort of chain of logic and the chain of events about why this is necessary for today. And it looks like the applicant has something to share.
Regarding activity on Edinburgh, there's no activity on Edinburgh.
Okay.
In the building and the street, there's no activity.
Okay. All right, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and then lastly, Selena and applicant, are we in agreement and in accordance with the proposed conditions of approval?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, so given the applicant's feedback and some of these added components of information to the resolution, I do believe that it's appropriate. The findings are there to support approval of this minor exception. So I'd like to go ahead and adopt a resolution approving minor exception number 2021-03 for the property located at 4405 West Edinger Avenue, subject to these modifications to the final resolution, and then I'd be happy to sign off. It looks like we have no other items on the agenda, so thank you for bringing forward the application, and thank you, Selena, for your analysis and work on that one. And with that, it looks like there's nothing else, so we can go ahead